everyone, and welcome to the Terran Republic Medic Assault Rifle Review. Today we're going to be covering quite a few of the medic guns that are available. I'm not going to talk about shotguns or submachine guns. They are not part of the medic standard outfit. I will be covering the Saber 13, however, because the Saber is unique to the medic, and generally speaking, if I don't cover it here, it never will get covered. To get started, we're going to be talking about, first off, the Cycler TRV. The Cycler TRV does not have good muzzle velocity, however it has great rate of fire. Now, the reason to use this gun is the fact that it has an advanced laser available to it, and it's one of the best from the hip weapons that is available to the medic class. Now, as far as attachments go, I prefer the 2X sight and I prefer the advanced laser over the grip. The reason being is because it does boast that high rate of fire, 845 rounds per minute. Equipping it, we can come over to the range here. And we can see from the hip, it's fairly accurate. It can hit pretty well up close. Great rate of fire, deals a lot of damage. Now when you're aiming down range, it does pull up and to left, and you can see this from a recoil test here. It will be pulling a little bit to the left. So, when you're firing at targets that are down range from you, you're going to want to have to compensate. You're going to kind of pull down and to the right. But we can see here that the accuracy on this really does not look too good at range. Now this may be due to the laser a little bit, but quite frankly the RPM is so high that you're fighting the recoil, and this is best used from the hip. If you're looking for a close range solution, this is your best option that I feel is available in the assault rifle category. Next up, we're going to be moving on here, and we're talking about the NS11A. Now the NS11A has some of the highest muzzle velocity available at 640. Damage is nothing to write home about, neither is the fire rate. The magazine size, not being a TR weapon, is a little bit lower, 35, and it is a neutral weapon, so nanite systems. We do have a 2X sight available, which again I love, and you can even go with better sights like a 4X or a 3.4 because this does have the range to punch. I mean, if you're at long range, good solution. Do go with the grip because accuracy is important with this, as it is not a close range weapon. It can perform close range, as we can see here from the hip. Not too bad. Not terrible. Now aiming down the sight, it does go 50%, and we can see right here, I'm dead on balls accurate with it. It does have a little bit of pull, but we can literally target something around range and just pelt it. As far as accuracy goes, this is a good gun. I mean, it's very accurate, and if you buy it with station cash, it's available on all three factions. It also reloads very quickly for an assault rifle, so if you're looking for a gun that's always there, this might be a good purchase. Moving on here, we're going to be picking up the Saber 13. This is one of my more favored guns for TR. Muzzle velocity is 620, very good. The damage is 167, which is quite high for the assault rifles. Now, as far as attachments, it does have an advanced grip, and you're going to want to go for that, because this is a long-range weapon. Now, it does have optics available to go close range. We see here it's got a 2X, it's got a 1X, but I prefer the TMS 4X. And why is that? Well, when you're looking down at a target at range, you can generally speaking aim at their sternum, and you'll hit them in the head most likely, because it does fire in a 2-round burst. You can see how I just kind of sternum head, sternum head, sternum head. I let the recoil do the work for me. Now you can fight the recoil and actually position it so you just literally pull down on it and try to get both on their head like that. But at that point you're fighting the recoil, and each shot requires you to re-aim. If you do fire at their sternum, you can just literally just tap, 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 and go wild on them. Up close, you're going to be a clicking monster if you want to fight up close with this weapon. It does do decent. Can't deny it does decent. But there are better close range solutions to this weapon. Also, if you're using the 4X sight and you try to go down the scope up close, good luck. Especially when they get really close. So, if you're looking for a long range weapon that can perform up, you know, in a pinch at close range, I recommend this. Now, if you're planning on going into close quarters, I don't know if I would use it. Moving on. The next weapon I do want to cover here is the default T1 Cycler. Now, a lot of classes you think, oh, the starting gun's crap. Well, it's enough to get it done, and that's exactly what this gun goes to achieve. 580 muzzle velocity, 750 RPM, so pretty high still. As far as attachment go, I would go with the grip, and I would go with the 2X as always. equipping these, it's fairly stable overall. I mean, it can fire from the hip decently. It's got okay accuracy, good rate of fire, okay damage. Nothing to write home about, but it gets it done. Long range, it can stay pretty well on target. It's one of the nice things about assault rifles is they have range. Now, as far as pull goes, we can see here it kind of jitters left and right like the T9 Carve does, but it stays pretty much on target, which makes it very easy while moving to stay pretty much accurate and be returning fire. So, good starter gun. If you're not sure what to go with, this will get it done. Don't feel like you need to move away from it. If you do like it and you do want to be a little bit more controlled though, the T1B Cycler is available. In the last patch here, they have modified it to have 42 rounds, so it does gain 2 additional bullets over the original T1 Cycler. Now, it does have a forward grip available as well, and it has the same attachments. Right here, I still prefer the 2x scope. You can see the 42 rounds, but we are restricted to a 3-round burst. It does have single fire. However, you're not going to use it because you're going to be using it for burst, which is still pretty accurate. It does pull a little bit up on the 3rd shot, but if you pull down and compensate a little bit, you can go pretty quick and still be firing relatively on target at long range. A lot of people say statistically these are better, but they don't factor in the fact that a lot of people just start off and they use, you know, the first gun they're given. So it's going to, of course, skew statistics a little bit. Now, you can rapid fire this thing, but that's about as close as you're going to get a full auto, is clicking like a madman. If you like full auto, this gun's probably not the best option. Moving on. Next up, we're going to cover the T1S Cycler. Now, the S series is all about attachments. Now, how do you get attachments? Well, you give up some of that rate of fire. The default Cycler is 750 rate of fire. This one here is 698. Now, what do you get for giving up that rate of fire? Well, you keep most of the same scope attachments, but you do get some availabilities that are not there normally, such as the grenade launcher, the underbarrel shotgun, and the smoke launcher. I prefer the grenade launcher overall, and the reason being is because the grenades are resupplyable from engineers. If you press the 1 button, again, you can switch between the 2 attachments. You see it adjusting for the grenade launcher, giving us a different sight. It does have some drop. You can right-click to kind of zoom in a little bit, but even at here, this is probably about right on target to hit close to the back line, like the second last down there. You can hit it right here. That's a little bit high. That one's about on target. Now, the nice thing about this is, again, you can fire once and then switch modes and come up with follow-up shots. So once again, sight your target downrange, let a grenade go, switch modes, fire. And as you see right there, if they're not dead from the grenade, which oftentimes they will be if you hit them, you can finish them off. It'll leave them weak and give this gun some extra power. It also hits max suits pretty well. Now, the smoke launcher is extremely effective at what it does. You just got to know how to use it. Smoke will not arm up close. So at range, if you smoke, you can see right here, it's pretty damn blinding. Launch a few of these things around, and you're going to say, well, I can get from point A to point B, but make sure that you blind your enemy by putting them in the middle of the smoke. Don't fire it towards yourself. And keep in mind that thermal vision can see right through this, so vehicles aren't going to be affected too much. If somebody's using an IR scope, they're going to shoot right through it and kill you. So they're not cheating, they're just looking correctly for you. Moving on here to the actual firepower of the gun. We can see right here, it kind of does the same thing that the T1 Cycler does. It's kind of back and forth. But as far as accuracy goes, it's pretty accurate. And the slower rate of fire actually makes it even more controllable than the original. And I can nail things downrange standing up with this thing, no problem. Ducking down, even better. Good weapon. Probably my most favorite of the medic class. Continuing on here, we're going to be talking about the TAR. And this is also the last gun we're going to be covering. The TAR is the close-range solution to aiming down the sight. Now, why would you use this over the TRV? First off, let's compare them. The TRV up here shows 845 rounds per minute. We can see the stats on the right-hand side here of the TAR. So the main difference here is the TAR gets a little bit more muzzle velocity, so it gives a little bit more range, but it loses RPM, which means up close it's not as good as a solution as the TRV. It's also really not designed for hip fire. Now the soft stats don't really relay that here, so I'm going to show you why. If I was on the TRV, as I said earlier, I'd use an advanced laser. On the TAR, I'm going to go for the grip. And the question is, why? Well, first off, I don't have a 2X attachment, which kind of sucks. Unfortunately, they kind of got these two attachments backwards. I'd rather have the 2X on this one. Now, loading this in here, we come over here, and the biggest thing I can show you is, look how fast I'm moving from side to side. Now, watch when I go down the scope. That's pretty damn fast. Now, the TRV does not move that fast while you're aiming down the sight. And the reason being is because this thing has a special modification on it, known as 0.75 movement speed. It allows me to sight up while I'm moving and be able to fire and be fairly accurate while doing it. So as far as accuracy goes, this is your non-hip fire solution to close range. Now, at long range, it does okay. It starts to lose a little bit because the fire rate really pulls it, but you can still get it done as long as you're concentrating and, you know, very careful with how you shoot. Now, as far as pull, this one does not pull up and to the left like the TRV. Instead, it kind of goes up and a little bit to the right like the MSWR does. So you do have to compensate by aiming at your target, then pulling down to the left to try to move it away from its recoil. Again, what's really nice about it is, aim down the sight, move, shoot. If you're trying to do this with the TRV, you want the TAR. You picked the wrong gun. So, make sure you understand the strengths of medic guns, because they are very unique in what role they perform. And I'm going to cover each role really quickly here to kind of give it a too long to read approach. TRV, use it with a laser, use it up close, fastest fire rate. NS-11A, use it at range, don't try to use it up close, it's too slow firing, they'll get you killed. Moving on, Saber 13, best range option available bar none. That is what you want to use if you're trying to punch at long range. T1 Cycler, great starting weapon, good at everything. If you're not sure what to use, stick with it. T1B, if you like the extra burst control, I guess I could call it, go with it. You know, it'll give you 2 extra rounds in it. If you're really good at controlling your fire, you can get high accuracy rating out of this gun. Very efficient. T1S Cycler, my personal favorite, great if you like attachments, good all around. I don't see any reason not to use this gun for pretty much everything. The TAR, excellent for up close fighting up to mid-range when you want to aim down the sight. If you're trying to fire from the hip, use a TRV. You'll get more fire rate out of it. So those are the medic guns. If you did enjoy this and do want to see more footage from me, please give this a like. Also love to hear your comments about my reviews of the weapons and also what you'd like to see next. So hopefully this was informative, and I will see you guys around.